the Dark Tournament. Widely known as one of, if not the greatest anime tournament arc of all time, is here. And trust me, it does not disappoint. I know it's been a while since I talked about Yu Yu Hakusho on the channel, so let's rewind a little bit and cover some ground. In the last episode, Yusuke and the gang ended up having to uproot the evil tyrant Tsurukune, who had captured this ice apparition Yukina, Hiei's little sister. They ended up getting the job done, but had to go through some real tough enemies, primarily the Toguro brothers. The Toguro bros were wiping the floor with Yusuke and Kuwabara, but through some clever planning, Yusuke had used his spirit gun as a boost to Kuwabara, allowing him to surprise and stab his spirit sword straight through Toguro's chest, eventually freeing Yukina. But ever since her departure back to the normal world, Kuwabara has been heartbroken. He had a final confrontation with her, begging her to stay so that they could be together, but she curved him one final time. And fast forward to today, Kuwabara is still upset about it. His whole demeanor has completely changed. He's all serious and just primarily wants to be alone. Yusuke, chatting with Botan, points out how not every case comes with a happy ending. Even for Hiei, he still never even told Yukina that they were related. He was making the excuse that she's just his half-sister, so there's no real point. He'll just watch over her from a distance using his Jagana. He's got this act of being all tough and evil, woo woo woo. You know how Hiei is, too cool for school, but he's still got this soft spot in his heart for the people that he cares about, even if he won't admit it. Yusuke was talking with Botan about this on a walk, but she basically drops him off on a date with Keiko. He ain't really want to do it. He's not with the whole going out on dates and going out shopping, whatever, but Keiko's not gonna let him leave. Over with Botan, she ended up making her way back to Spirit World, and she's getting into it with Koenma because he's always sending Yusuke on these impossible missions. It seems like Koenma is trying to get him killed out there, but out the back, before Koenma could even really defend himself, they get interrupted by one of Koenma's workers. He pops up saying that they've got some urgent news. They have extra tape from the fight versus Toguro. They had left the tape rolling and see that after Toguro was beaten, he's just lying there, but suddenly Kuwabara's spirit sword gets popped straight out of his abdomen as both the older Toguro and the younger Toguro stand up after supposedly being killed. They get back on a call with their real boss, Sakio, who had orchestrated the entire thing. Toguro's explaining that they heard the little plan that Yusuke Kuwabara had devised. They just played along so Sakio could win his bet. They did work for Tsurukune, they were being paid by him, but Sakio had ended up paying them more, so that's who they really ended up working for. Sakio is clearly satisfied. He ended up winning all of Tsurukune's fortune in the bet that they had made, who, by the way, is still over here going crazy. But Tsurukune asked for one last thing from Sakio since their contract was fulfilled properly. Toguro asked Sakio for the opportunity to fight Yusuke for real. No rigged stakes, a real fight with everything on the line. Sakio responds saying that of course they'll have the opportunity since Yusuke is one of the invited participants to the Dark Tournament. Now, the Dark Tournament is obviously a tournament, but it's a fighting competition composed of 99% demons, and every year they bring in one human team in order to compete as well. Brutal fights, all for demon entertainment, but for the fighters, it's for pride. As Toguro finishes Tsurukune off, we go back to the human world and see Yusuke on his date with Keiko. She's wanting to go all these places, go to the park, grab her some food, whatever. But as they walk outside, continuing on their date and all this list of stuff that Keiko had planned, they see an accident in a nearby building. There's a crowd and police all over, so they walk up to check it out. Yusuke just sees these two chunks taken out of this building, and they're trying to figure out what could have even happened as we see somebody watching Yusuke. He drives up, revving his engine, revealing himself, and of course, it's Toguro. Yusuke is naturally surprised, instantly feeling the tension of standing face to face with the strongest opponent he had ever met on the battlefield. And of course, he's here hanging out with Keiko. Toguro just throws his fist, sending a gust of air strong enough to rip through Yusuke's shirt as a mere warning message, saying that they need to go for a little chat or else
something might happen to his precious little girlfriend. As they make their leave, just in the nick of time, Kuwabara pulls up, seeing Toguro and Yusuke walk off. He doesn't know exactly what's going on, but clearly something's wrong. Toguro ends up taking Yusuke to this empty construction site, letting him know that their fight at the mansion was completely staged. Yusuke had no hand in actually defeating Toguro. It was Money that had decided that fight long beforehand. Toguro explains that now they'll have the opportunity to fight with nothing held back at the Dark Tournament. But Yusuke is still far too weak. He's over here trying to put up this front that he's got better things to do than be over here chat with Toguro. He already beat him in a fight once and he don't care anymore. But Toguro can see his whole body is trembling out of fear. He can see right through his bluff. Toguro knows that Yusuke is not strong enough now, but he sees the potential. So he decided to pull up on him and give him a little kick in the ass to start his training. So the fight at the Dark Tournament is actually worth his time. He starts powering up and explains that he was only at 20% power when he fought against them at the mansion. He powers up to 60% and with ease takes out this entire pillar of the building that they're standing in. He starts jumping around, destroying the entire infrastructure of this building as Yusuke's just standing there paralyzed in fear. The ceiling begins to collapse on top of him, but Toguro saves him so that he can live long enough to actually make it to the tournament. This man Toguro ended up wiping out the entire building with just his bare hands. And arising from the rubble, Yusuke just sees Toguro as he says that this is going to be the one and only time that he'll ever save Yusuke's life. He practically teleports behind Yusuke, explaining the Dark Tournament to him, saying that if he refuses, then Toguro will kill him and everybody that he loves. And just like that, Toguro makes his leave as we see Yusuke fall to the ground, disappointed that he was so scared he couldn't even move. Turns out Kuwabara had followed the two of them and is just as shocked and scared as Yusuke is. He was sure that Toguro was dead for good. I mean, he was the one who had got the kill in the first place. And over with Toguro, as he's making his way back to whatever he planned on doing, he looks up to see Kurama and Hiei watching him. He knows that they've been invited to the Dark Tournament as well, and they're going to be on Yusuke's team. So with those four in lock, they'll need one more member, and Toguro says for their sake, that fifth member better be strong. Now, with all the stakes set, we enter the training montage. Not a single one of them is in the condition that they need to be in order to take on the Dark Tournament. And the first thing that we see is Yusuke stopping at Master Genkai. We get through a whole bunch of intense training with Yusuke, Genkai, Hiei, Kuwabara, and Kurama. And after 2 months of vigorous training, the week of the Dark Tournament has arrived. Hiei, Kurama, and Kuwabara are at the meetup spot to take them to the island where the Dark Tournament is going to be held, but Yusuke, on the other hand, isn't nowhere to be found. These little funk booty demons are all talking crazy amongst each other, saying that they're going to be the ones to win, no one else is going to have a chance. Come on, bro. Just looking at these, y'all know ain't no chance they're winning. But in the midst of all their banter, all of a sudden, the captain of the ship pulls up, saying that it's time to go to Hanging Neck Island, where the tournament is going to be held. Of course, Yusuke still hasn't showed up yet, so they're kind of panicking. But of course, at the last second, Yusuke pulls up alongside their fifth fighter. On site, before Yusuke could even get accustomed to the place, Hiei pulls up on him and starts attacking the hell out of Yusuke, trying to see if he's really improved since the last time they've seen each other. Yusuke easily dodges everything and eventually stops Hiei's blade. You know how Hiei gets down, so to see him genuinely impressed proves to show how much Yusuke's grown over the course of the training arc. And seeing this person that Yusuke had pulled up with, this is going to be their fifth fighter. Kuwabara is shocked because Yusuke pulled up with somebody smaller than even Hiei is. He like 3'5", 3'6" at max. But Hiei says it don't even matter who the fifth fighter is. Seeing how much Yusuke's improved, he says Yusuke and himself are going to be all that this team is going to need. Just the two of them could wipe out everybody in their path. The captain of the boat calls for everybody to get on, and just moments after they do and get onto the water, he announces that this ship is officially going to be the casting grounds for the tournament's preliminary stage. Out of everybody here, only one team that survives gets to move on to the actual tournament. Kuwabara's confused because the human team were supposed to be the special invites to the tournament, but both Hiei and Kurama already know this is exactly how the Dark Tournament operates. No rules, no respect for how things are supposed to be done. The only thing that they care about is brute force and pure bloodshed. How this is gonna go is they're gonna have like a little battle royale in the middle of the stage, pretty much a free-for-all. One fighter gets to represent each team, and the one fighter that survives gets to take their team to the island for the tournament. But as all the enemies start walking up to the stage, Kuwabara is trying to get Yusuke's attention. He's the leader of the team, so he's got to head in there and represent him, but Yusuke is knocked out cold. Kurama explains that Yusuke's training must have been so intense that he's in need of this heavy of recovery. And with their team leader out of action, they don't have anybody up there to go and fight. But out of nowhere, the masked fighter walks up to the stage. Kuwabara's not so sure about allowing this person that they don't even know to go up and fight for the team, but Hiei says it's no problem. If their fighter were to lose, then all the rest of them will have to do is kill every demon back on this boat so that they'll have no choice but to be the team that makes it to the island. As the masked fighter steps into the ring, all the other demons are interested in what this human is capable of. They all decide to gang up on him, and this is when Kuwabara really starts to get worried. But as the free-for-all starts, the masked fighter locks in, charging up his spirit energy and launching attacks at each and every one of them, easily launching them all straight into the ocean. Of course, Team Urameshi is super satisfied with the masked fighter's performance, but before they can celebrate, all of the other demons pull up, not satisfied with these results. They get into this all-out brawl as we get to see Team Urameshi post-training arc all doing their thing. Kurama is doing his rose whip, Hiei slicing and dicing, y'all know how they get down. But over with Yusuke, who's still asleep, this demon runs up on him saying that killing Yusuke is gonna make him famous. Kuwabara peeps that he's about to get hit with a sneak attack, but that demon got smacked across the entire boat by this man Yusuke while he was still asleep. He's reliving his training with Genkai, and his sleep fighting was more than strong enough to pack dude up easily. Now that everybody else is dead, the gang, alongside the captain, who's salty that Team Yusuke didn't get washed up by these little demons, make their way to Hanging Neck Island, where the Dark Tournament is gonna be hit. They get dropped off at this hotel, where they actually see a ton of humans. There's a whole bunch of rich people, suits and ties and dresses, classy music in the background, all that. As their butler pulls up, saying that the hotel has been awaiting them, he's gonna escort them to their room. So as they make their way, we see that all the other humans are surprised that this is the human group. They expected some bigger folks, more masculine, woo woo, whatever, but to them, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. They just wanted to know what they look like before they got slaughtered. You could tell it's some type of weird, you know how I get down with them rich people, I don't know. But they're here as humans to see other humans fight in a tournament, and they're not on the human side. You know what I mean? Hey bro, I don't know. Over with Sakio and Toguro, they're talking about Team Urameshi getting past the quote-unquote preliminary test of those demons on that boat, and Toguro knew damn well that those little monsters was not going to be enough. Sakio said he just wanted to give them one last little test before setting up their true first obstacle in the first round of the tournament, a team of well-known demons, Team Rokuyukai. Back with the gang, they end up getting some coffees from their butler, and Kuwabara, he's real skeptical. He don't trust nothing that come from these rich folks. He's not drinking none of their coffee, eating none of their food. He barely trusts the bed he's got to sleep on. But everybody else knows that if they wanted to kill him, then they would have already done it by now. Poisoning them with some coffee, there's just no point. But Kuwabara is not going. The other three take a sip of their coffee when Kurama suddenly realizes that there's one coffee left on the table. Kuwabara's like, duh. Obviously, I just said I wasn't going to drink mine. But Kurama says exactly. So if Kuwabara didn't drink his, there should be two left on the table. One being his and the other one being Yusuke's, who's still asleep. Then we pan to a shot of this person drinking out of the mug that was missing. It turns out it's this little kid who introduces himself as Rinku, one of the members of Team Rokuyukai that they'll be fighting in the first round tomorrow. He managed to sneak his way in,
grabbing the coffee right in front of their faces with none of them even being able to notice. He starts talking crazy like, I heard y'all supposed to be special, but shit, y'all don't look that tough to me. I might just whoop all of y'all my damn self. But he's interrupted by his teammate, another member of the Rokuyokai team, who also managed to sneak his way in there without anybody noticing. He tells Rinku to pipe down. There's no need to be talking so much, doing this crazy whatever. He prefers to let their fighting do the talking. But he does leave the room with some parting words, telling Team Urameshi that they better enjoy their last night alive, because tomorrow they're gonna end up just like their coffee cup, as the remaining cup on the table explodes right in front of him. I don't know why he chose this method of intimidation. I'm sorry, that shit was weak as hell. I don't know if it was supposed to be all tough and impressive because he did it without moving, or he did it so effortless, whatever, but he just heads back into the hallway with Rinku, thinking he got, I don't even know, all type of intimidation. I don't know, that shit was weak to me. But he's talking with Rinku about Yusuke, the 5th member who slept throughout that entire interaction. Rinku thinks that Yusuke was asleep just because he's an idiot, he's stupid. But Zero knows that there's something different about him. He wasn't asleep because he was stupid, he stayed asleep because he didn't sense a threat. Finally, we move on to the next day, and it's time for the Dark Tournament to begin. First up, we see Team Rokuyokai here in the support of everybody in the crowd. Up in the VIP lounge, we see the BBC, the Black Club, up there awaiting the start of the first round. One member is talking to Sakio, the owner of Team Toguro, and he's just going on about how if a team is going to make it out of this tournament, then they got to have fan support. If the crowd's against them, then they're not going to stand a chance. He sees that Team Rokuyokai does have the fan support, so, you know, he's just saying, but he's not going to root for him because, I don't know, the other lowly level demons are rooting for him and he don't want to be grouped in, whatever. And mind you, he's going on and on and on about this to Sakio while he's just staying completely silent. As the teams walk out, we see them meet in the middle of the ring, and this man Yusuke is still asleep, right? Even right here at the start of the tournament, he's completely knocked out. But before they get into it, we head outside of the Dark Tournament venue, where we see Botan alongside Keiko and Shizuru, Kuwabara's sister. Now, earlier in the episode, they ended up forcing Botan to tell him where Yusuke and Kuwabara had went, and actually convinced her to take him here. I don't know what Botan doing. She should know better than to bring him here, but hey, shout out to Botan, bro. Since we pulling out all type of side characters, we see Koima pull up in this whole new form, right? With the old girl, of course. Shout out my mans. I don't know his name, but shout out my mans. He upgraded from his little baby toddler form to this teenage form, but still kept the pacifier in his mouth. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on, bro. That's just his swag at this point. I don't know. Koima makes it up to his own VIP suite as the girls make their way to their seats in the stands. Inside the ring, both teams are there and agree on the terms for the match. Since Yusuke sleep, Kuwabara steps up as the interim team captain, as he and Zero end up deciding on regular 1v1 matches. Whichever team ends up with the most wins will continue to the next round. As Kuwabara is carrying Yusuke back to their team side, Zero decides to test Yusuke, charging up his spirit energy engulfed in flames, sending it towards the gang, circling around them, and straight into the crowd, bro. For absolutely no reason, this dude Zero just eradicated like 5% of the entire I guess not the population, the crowd that was watching with the one attack. Just meant to be sent as a warning shot. Noticing that Yusuke is still asleep after all of that, he admits that he might have been wrong about him. Maybe he's just an idiot after all. As the first match is set to begin, both Rinku and Kuwabara step up. Rinku's upset with the fact that he got matched up with the weak one, but now he's forced to fight him. In the nature of not taking this seriously at all, Rinku starts to play around. He starts bouncing around all over the place, doing jumps, flips, flying kicks, all type of stuff. Kuwabara loses sight of him for just a second, and he ends up right underneath my man's chin, socking him with an uppercut kick, bro. That shit is dead crazy. How you uppercut somebody with a kick? Kuwabara is honestly getting embarrassed at this point. Rinku is quite literally running circles around him, but Kuwabara locks in, telling Rinku that he's not as nice as he must think he is because he's leaving a trail. He knocks the hell out of this man, sending him tumbling, rolling, even knocking little bro's hat clean off. Now Rinku gets up, but as he tries to get back into it, Kuwabara continues to keep up with him, now that he's got a sense for his timing. Kurama's impressed. They honestly didn't expect too much from Kuwabara. They went through training with him specifically while Yusuke was out doing his own thing, and they didn't expect him to have improved by this much. But Hiei, on the other hand, is still not impressed. He's still over there hating. He says that Kuwabara's moves are, they cooler, you feel me, whatever, but he doesn't fully understand the true nature of these type of fights. He should take the opportunity to kill this kid while he's down on the floor, but knowing Kuwabara and his honor and his pride, he would never do so. Kuwabara continues to attack Rinku, telling him that he doesn't want to put him through all this pain. It's best if he just stays down. The ref can count to 10 and this whole thing can be over. But Rinku just smiles, disappearing from Kuwabara's vision. He had dashed behind him, and by the time Kuwabara could even react, Rinku kicked him straight in his temple, destroying this man's neck, sending Kuwabara flying. The gang can't believe it, but the crowd loves it. The ref starts to count up, and he realizes that Kuwabara only looks so good because Rinku wasn't trying. He was purposefully leaving a trail. He just wanted to hype up the fans and give them a little bit of a story, show a little bit of controversy, but once he turned it on, it was GG's for my man. The ref is continuing to count up 5, 6, 7, 8, but as Rinku's celebrating his victory, Kuwabara gets back up, saying that little attack of his wasn't nothing. Rinku just locks back in. He thought that he had broke Kuwabara's neck last time, but this time he'll make sure to do it for sure. Both fighters are back up and ready to continue their brawl. They both at some point underestimated one another. Kuwabara thought he wasn't nothing crazy because he was just a little kid, and clearly Rinku didn't think Kuwabara would be this tough. So now it's time for each of them to use all of their cards. It's time for the big guns. Rinku pulls out his real weapon, these 8 yo-yos. Both Kurama and Hiei can tell that just with taking out these weapons, Rinku's spirit power is increasing drastically. And seeing that Rinku's going all out, Kuwabara decides to do the same. He pulls out this little trick that he's learned, honed, and perfected over these past months, the double spirit sword. Rinku jumps up and sends his yo-yos towards Kuwabara, but as he tries to deflect them away, they dodge Kuwabara's spirit swords, weaving through in order to attack him. These yo-yos were able to move on their own because they're infused with Rinku's spirit energy, as he calls them the serpent yo-yos. He starts sending these attacks towards Kuwabara. He's lifting tiles up off the stadium, trying to keep them at bay, but they're smashing right through anything and everything that Kuwabara sends their way. He eventually lands another attack and wraps the yo-yos around my man's wrists and ankles, beginning to literally throw him around like a rag doll. Kuwabara's just going through it, but he's staying persistent, and this is when Rinku gets an idea. Clearly, at this rate, Kuwabara's not going to give up, so he begins to lift him up higher and higher up in the air. In the crowd, Shizuru is cracking jokes about Kuwabara getting flung around like this. She's kind of got a don't really give a attitude. If she's stressed about it, it's not going to help the situation. But Botan and especially Keiko didn't really find it too funny. Shizuru's trying to explain that getting stressed out in the stands isn't going to help, but Keiko says she be damned if she ain't tried. She yells out to Yusuke from the stands, telling him to get up. He's got to help Kuwabara before he dies. But screaming out into the crowd like this, all the demons are just looking around at her as she steps out of her seat, trying to get closer to the ring so that Yusuke can hear her, but she's stopped by this big old demon. But look at his stance, bro. What kind of form is these, bro? Keiko says she's not scared of monsters like him. Yusuke could easily whoop on him with ease, but since Yusuke's not here, bro decides to attack Keiko while she's defenseless. But Shizuru comes to the rescue, ashing her sig right on this man's tongue, and that was enough to make his little weak ass sit down. In the ring, Kuwabara is still getting lifted up higher and higher in the air, and Rinku determines that finally it's time for the drop. He lets go of Kuwabara as he begins to free fall faster towards the ground, but Kuwabara says this is where Rinku made his big mistake. He should have never let Kuwabara use his hands. He draws his spirit sword and lengthening it and sticking it into the ground in order to absorb his fall, using all of that energy to launch himself directly at Rinku. Rinku's not worried about this straight on attack, since he can not only dodge the attack, but send his yo-yos in to put in some work on Kuwabara at the same time. But as the two attacks get near each other, Kuwabara's sword bends and weaves around the yo-yo to chase Rinku down as the yo-yos chase down Kuwabara. They both end up attacking each other, getting sent out of the ring. As the rules say, the fighters are only allowed to stay outside of the ring for 10 seconds each. So the ref starts to count up. Hiei and Kurama know that both hits made solid impacts, so there's a very good chance that neither of them get back on their feet. But arising from the out of bounds area comes Rinku. He's shocked that Kuwabara's spirit sword packed that much of a punch, but he knows that Kuwabara couldn't withstand a direct hit from the yo-yos like that. So he starts using his energy to heal his own wounds. Over on Kuwabara's side, he's still out. No signs of life, but suddenly he hears something. He hears this man Yusuke talking shit in the middle of his sleep, saying, "Kuwabara, I know you normally a loser, but you gotta get up now." Yusuke's been having these half-aware sleep comments throughout the entire time since he's been asleep, all the way since he was back on the boat, but Kuwabara is convinced that Yusuke's faking it now. He's just trying to get any opportunity to talk slick without any repercussions. But the entire time while this is going down, the ref has still been counting up, and Kuwabara's about to hurry his way back into the ring, but Rinku knows that he can't deal with Kuwabara anymore. He took too much damage. So he uses his yo-yos to wrap Kuwabara up, physically restraining him from getting back into the ring as the ref counts up to 10 and Kuwabara loses the match. Team Rikuikai, in the lamest way possible, takes the first round and the score is now 0-1. Kuwabara calls it unfair, dishonorable, all that. Rinku obviously played cheap, but he just runs back past his team in order to sit in the ball and heal himself back up. While the second fighter on Team Rikuikai steps up, and Kurama does as well. They're just eyeing each other down as Hiei tells Kurama that they don't have any wiggle room to mess around, so make sure he doesn't leave the ring alive, as Kurama just says, naturally. Over with the girls, Botan gets tired of seeing Yusuke over here just sitting there not doing anything, so she jumps over the ledge, running up to Yusuke, trying to slap him into being awake. But after that fails, she just drags Yusuke out to the side. Now it's time for the second fight, Kurama versus Roto. As the round starts, Roto begins talking a little bit about Kurama, saying that he knows how he spent so much time over in the human world. Hopefully, he hasn't gotten too attached to anybody. Kurama doesn't know what he's talking about, but Roto starts off fighting super aggressively. But even with him trying his hardest, he can't lay a finger on Kurama. He's dodging and weaving around every single attack. Kurama just jumps right behind him, saying that it's time for his last words. The fight is already over. But Roto calls out Kurama by his human name, Suichi, saying that he's got his hands on his human mother. Kurama jumps out of the way, and this time as he lands, we see that Roto did manage to get a scratch mark across his face. Roto pulls out this little device, explaining to Kurama that over in the human world, Roto's demon brother has been watching his mom go about her daily life. Once he gets a signal from this button, Roto's brother will quickly end his mother's life, so it's in his best interest that he listens to Roto, doing everything that he tells him to if he wants his mother to stay alive. Kurama, not wanting his mother to die, just lowers his guard, allowing Roto to start getting all of these free hits on him. After a barrage of attacks, Kurama just weakly responds by throwing a pebble right at Roto's chest, but of course, it did no type of damage. Roto just tells him to stop playing around. He reminds Kurama that once he presses this button, it's GG's for his mom. So he tells Kurama to put his hands behind his back and let Roto hit him as much as he wants while not defending himself at all. And with no other options, Kurama just obeys. Roto walks up to him, talking crazy as he just sits there silently. You can tell Roto's enjoying this. He's having fun, knowing that he has Kurama at the tip of his fingers as he knees Kurama in the gut, continuing to talk crazy as he just starts beating on him. But even with Kurama not defending himself and Roto throwing all these punches, Kurama is barely budging. He's taking these hits and his face is starting to get all swollen and scuffed up, but he hasn't lost any life in his eyes whatsoever. Roto turns his hand into this blade and slashes Kurama across the face, but still, that look in his eye doesn't change. You could tell that Roto is taking this personal now. He lifts his foot, telling Kurama to lick the bottom of his boots until it's sparkling clean. And after that, he's gonna decapitate Kurama and let his mother go free. But this time, Kurama says he won't do it. Roto starts to laugh, saying that Kurama is finally revealing his true colors. He's no better than Roto or any of these other lowly level demons in the crowd. He looked down on him for using this type of tactic, but in the end, he's just as selfish and as greedy as everybody else. He's going on and on and on, and since Kurama is not gonna obey him, he says it's time to push the button, and Kurama actually tells him to go ahead and push it. He doesn't care. Roto's like, okay, if you really bout it, then I will. But as he goes to press the button, suddenly Roto can't move. He's trying his hardest to press the button to go through with what he just said, but Kurama walks up, knocking the device out of his hands, saying that gambling your entire round on one single threat is a real risky play. If Kurama really didn't care, then his threat would have been useless. All Kurama had to do was simply paralyze Roto, and all of his leverage, all of his power would be gone. Kurama was able to paralyze him by sowing the seed of death inside of Roto's body, and by now it's had plenty of time to spread throughout. Roto finally realizes that that pebble that Kurama had thrown was merely a distraction while he implanted the seed directly in his heart. Kurama starts to walk away as Roto begins to beg, showing his true colors. He's telling Kurama like, oh, I'm just a low class level demon. I didn't know any better. I have to resort to these type of tricks to win. I didn't mean to cause any harm. Come on, Kurama. You believe in mercy, don't you? No. The death plant sprouts from Roto's body as his corpse falls to the ground. Officially, the score is tied up 1-1. As Kurama makes it back to the gang, it turns out that Hiei knew what was going down the entire time. He's talking a little bit with Kurama, but at the end of the day, all they care is that they won the round, and now it's time for round 3. Stepping up to bat is Zero, their team leader. Everybody's shocked because the team leader typically goes last, but he must think that he himself can easily take out the rest of Team Urameshi, so he's walking up now. And from Team Urameshi, Hiei steps up saying that ever since last night, this dude has been bothering him, so he's gonna take care of it personally. As Hiei steps in the ring, he starts talking this shit to Zero, saying that just from his little display last night, that little weak ass intimidation tactic, he knows all about Zero's technique. He knows that Zero manipulated the heat inside of the cup to make it seem as if it sliced in half or it exploded, but his execution was half-assed. But Zero doesn't want to hear anything from Hiei. He knows that he can't talk about anybody's technique or their powers when he uses a fake eye, in reference to Hiei's Jagan eye. For context, if you don't remember, Hiei had gotten this fake eye, this Jagan eye, implanted so that he could have more powers, he could be stronger. It's typically looked down upon, but Hiei doesn't care. As the fight starts, Zero powers up his spirit energy, which, just like before, engulfs the entire ring in flames. As he continuously turns up the heat more and more. He gathers some in his arm, sending it towards Hiei, but he's able to jump out of the way. He's dodging these attacks over and over as the remnants of the hits just destroy different sections of the crowd. Zero begins to wonder why Hiei's so quiet. He was just talking so crazy, but now he's tight-lipped, as Hiei just says he's bored. He says these little weak-ass attacks aren't enough to even entertain him, so Zero kicks it up a notch, expending all of his spirit energy and reinforcing his own body with it as we begin to see him transform. His body is glowing red as he quickly rushes Hiei, sticking his arm straight through his chest. And as Hiei flies through the air, we see his body go up in flames. Just like that, in a split second, Hiei was overwhelmed, but Zero is not done. He follows up with another attack, sending even more flames towards Hiei, completely burning him to a crisp. Zero starts to walk off, telling Hiei that he could go die in hell. The ref is honestly surprised with Zero's moves, saying that it was an incredible display of talent, but we just see flames arise from the back. As Hiei says, yeah, he's so talented. I'm almost reluctant to go for the kill. Hiei is standing amidst all the flames that Zero sent towards him, and neither the ref nor Zero can believe it. He doesn't know how Hiei managed to live through all of these attacks, as we see burning through the bandage on Hiei's forehead the Jagan Eye. Hiei begins talking about the Jagan Eye, saying that it tends to have a mind of its own, and it truly doesn't appreciate the disrespect. He begins to summon the Dragon of the Darkness Flame, and just upon hearing the name, Zero begins to beg for mercy. The clouds start to turn black, and these lightning-like streaks of energy strike through the water from all around the island, channeling directly into Hiei's hand. He knows that it's nearly impossible to control this power completely, as he just says his right arm should be more than enough. He begins to power up more and more, and Zero is just stuck there, paralyzed in fear. Hiei finally sends out the Dragon of the Darkness Flame, as it goes right through Zero and crashes into the wall. Just seeing this in person, everybody is shocked that he was actually able to do it, as he just stands there seeing that his arm has been burnt to a crisp. But Zero, on the other end, got it even worse. These ashes are all that's left of him. Realizing that with no Zero in sight, it'd be pretty pointless to count, the ref announces Hiei as the winner, putting Team Urameshi in the lead 2-1. Kuwabara's hyped because he knows that Hiei could defeat anybody with that type of move, but realizing that Hiei could beat anybody with that type of move, he gets scared, wondering what would happen if Hiei turns back into a villain again. Hiei just tells him that they're on the same team for now when he's not the type to be a snake, so he don't gotta worry too much, but better not get on his bad side. Over with the other team, seeing their team leader get completely obliterated like this makes the two other members on Team Rikuikai too scared to even continue. They start slowly backing up, telling Rinku that he's gonna have to take care of the other people himself. But as they run into the tunnel, we just hear the sounds of bones cracking, and the two members who had just left scream for their lives. They end up getting carried out by a tall man holding both of them with one arm and a bottle of alcohol in the other. He tosses their lifeless bodies onto the ground, just starting to complain about how bright it is out here. This man is visibly drunk. He's stumbling, slurring his words, and Rinku just can't believe that he is actually here. He could barely even walk, but as he finally stumbles his way onto the stage, he calls the ref over, saying that two of their team members just happened to mysteriously die. Surely it'll be okay if he takes their spot, right? The ref says it's fine for each team to have an alternate fighter. Dude starts celebrating, rubbing his face all over her. He don't got no type of manners or sense of boundaries, anything. He just looks right over at Team Urameshi, wondering who's gonna come take him on. Over on their side, they're trying to figure out who to send in. Kurama, Kuwabara, and Hiei just all fought in their matches, so naturally it must be time for the masked fighter to step up, but he just closes his eyes as they all see Yusuke jump onto the stage. Yusuke just says, "Waking up to the smell of alcohol, huh? Can't help but feel like home." Kurama can't believe that after all the explosions, the flames, the people dying in the crowd, the fight going on right in front of him, it was the smell of alcohol that woke him up. Yusuke just talks a little shit to the crowd, walking up confidently to this mysterious fighter, ready to throw it in. Everybody starts to chant, "Kill Yusuke," over and over and over, as Kuwabara is surprised to hear that they have this much hate for him and that they're all hating in unison. That shit is crazy. He's never seen something like it. But Kurama explains that Yusuke has become a villain all across Demon World. He's been taking out all of their famous people, all of their best fighters left and right. They all know that they can't take him down, so all that they could do is root against him. Kurama's glad that Yusuke's up, but he knows that he's their last chance. Hiei had used everything in his power to take down Zero. He's trying to play it off like he's good, it's whatever, but it's likely that he'll never be able to use that right hand ever again. Inside the ring, we finally get an introduction to this mysterious fighter. His name is Chu. He makes his way over to the ref and takes the mic, explaining that the only reason that he's the alternate fighter is because they all played rock, paper, scissors earlier and he ended up losing. But in reality, he's the real deal. Yusuke's talking crazy as always, saying that he knows exactly how it went down. Chu must have heard that Yusuke was pulling up and he got too scared to face him on head to head, so he took a seat back. But now that he's their last chance, he's gonna try and put his little big boy pants on to go up against him. Chu starts getting mad. He's explaining that's not how it happened, that's not how it happened. He's easily frustrated. Yusuke's taunting him and he just can't control himself. But hearing some people in the crowd starting to side with Yusuke, he leaves out the ring, going straight up to somebody, putting him in a chokehold and making sure he apologizes. He takes it back. This dude is all over the place. He goes back into the ring with a different spectator's bottle of alcohol in his hands as he just chugs the whole thing in one swig, explaining to Yusuke that he's a master of the drunken fighting technique. Yusuke says he's not worried about no drunken fighting technique. He's already heard of that before. He's seen it in the movies. If that's all that he's bringing to the table, then he's got something else coming for him. But Chu, starting to get into his groove, asks Yusuke if he's really ready to deal with this. Suddenly, his face, which was completely drunk, turns sober as he and Yusuke have a stare down. Finally, the ref calls for the fight to begin as Chu begins to stumble and move all around the ring as Yusuke can barely even follow him, let alone manage to get a hit off. Finally, after locking in, he blocks Chu's first attack, but that first one was just a decoy as with his other arm, Chu hits him up into the air, sending him right back down to the ground with another punch. But we get a slow motion replay up on the big screen, seeing that Chu's first hit that he landed was actually 5 consecutive hits, all so fast that barely anybody could even see. Chu walks up to Yusuke, assuming that after getting a little taste of his power, he's tapped out, but Yusuke gets right back up and starts an attack of his own. But with each punch that Yusuke's throwing, Chu is dodging each and every one of them. Yusuke can't manage to land a hit, and as Chu switches back to offense, Yusuke dodges the first attack and blocks the second, but Chu lands his third. He starts a rush of punches on the Yusuke, knocking him back, but on the other hand, Yusuke is not giving up. He rushes in for even more of his own offense, but still fails to land a hit. Kuwabara on the side is like, hey Yusuke, you should try and hit him this time. And out of the rage of hearing Kuwabara say some dumb shit like that in the background, Yusuke actually manages to give Chu a good one right in his face. But as he gets sent to the ground, his body disappears, reappearing right behind Yusuke, kicking him all the way across the ring, burying him in a pile of rubble. With no signs of life from Yusuke, the ref begins to count up as Chu starts demanding from the audience that he needs another drink. The more that he drinks, the more powerful he gets. But before he could get another one from somebody in the crowd, Yusuke jumps out the rubble right onto the stage. We knew that Yusuke wasn't going to be taken out by no quick ass attack like that, and he's starting to realize this is a life or death situation, saying that honestly, with how his life goes, he's starting to get used to it. He kind of rocks with it. Chu just laughs, saying that he is the exact same way. If it's not serious, if everything isn't all on the line, then it's not worth fighting for. Finally, Yusuke decides to get serious and charges up his spirit gun, but shoots it right past Chu's face, hitting a part of the roof on the stadium, causing it to crash down. He introduces the spirit gun, saying that he's got 3 more shots. Before, he was so weak that he could only shoot once a day, but now it's real different. He knows that just one accurate shot hitting Chu straight on will probably be enough to kill him. Chu just laughs, respecting Yusuke's honor code, revealing his secret technique instead of trying to keep it as a surprise. So Chu decides to reveal his own technique. He pulls out from his back pocket a special flask, the strongest alcohol ever made, Ogre Killer. He starts downing this flask of Ogre Killer as everybody could see Chu's spirit energy adjust and grow in real time. He has this different look about him as his muscles start growing, and honestly, nobody knows what to expect. The entire arena has shifted to a different hue now that his spirit energy has grown so large, And finally, this man ends up running off to the side and throws up off the side of the ring. He was building up this whole moment like he was really about to tee up and go crazy, but Rinku is just laughing it off, knowing that when Chu gets this drunk, it's over for anybody in his path. Of course, he may feel like trash and is throwing up out the side of the ring because of the ogre killer, but this special drink brings out a different type of beast that nobody can hang with. After throwing up out the side of the ring, Chu ends up completely sober again. He's fully locked in now, and walking up to Yusuke, starts to charge a special attack of his own. After charging it up, Hiei and Kurama can tell that it's an attack real similar to Yusuke's spirit gun, just a compact ball of energy, and they can see that it's real similar in power. So if Yusuke gets hit by one of these, it's done for him as well. They both start running as Chu launches his ball of energy and Yusuke shoots one of his own as they meet, beginning to clash back and forth, eventually canceling each other out. They both rush in, starting to throw hands, as we see that with their fists, they're equally matched as well. Neither of them is worried about defense at this point. They're not dodging or blocking, they're just only focusing on offense. Any other strategy was ditched a long time ago. Chu lands a good punch on Yusuke, sending him flying back, starting to charge up another one of his special attacks, even stronger than the last. The gang knows that Yusuke's spirit gun won't be able to clash with this one. It's just too much energy. Yusuke is also off balance from taking a hit, so he's in no position to dodge. Pretty much everybody realizes that it could be GG's for Yusuke until he pulls out the spirit gun double. Chu has sent his attack out, and as the name implies, Yusuke shoots out 2 consecutive spirit guns, providing enough power in the center of Chu's blast to break through it, but it wasn't strong enough to completely destroy it. Both attacks end up making it through, and we just see this big explosion. But somehow, as everybody looks up, we see both Chu and Yusuke barely managing to escape the situation. It's honestly not looking pretty for either of them. Looking at each other, they're both out of energy, out of breath, all beaten up, as they realize that neither of them have any more energy to shoot at each other. The most that they could do is straight up fist to fist throwing hands. With no other options, Chu says he has an idea on how they can settle this for good. Chu proposes a knife edge deathmatch. Chu walks up to Yusuke, planting one of his knives into the ground, and then walks back to plant another knife of his own. He then tells Yusuke to take his shoes off so that they're barefoot. Plant one foot on the ground and the other back up against the edge of the knife. He explains that for this deathmatch, each fighter's knife dictates the edge of their world. Step outside of that world and you die. They're gonna stand there right in each other's faces, duking it out until one of them can't fight any longer. They then go through this entire thing of making sure the rules committee allows them to do this. The ref is trying their best to keep the crowd calm, but everybody wants to see this fight go down. Everybody's getting rowdy and loud, woo woo woo. It's just this whole big commotion. But at the end of the day, this knife edge deathmatch is green lit. Suddenly, things get real cinematic. The clouds turn dark, lightning strikes on both sides of each fighter, and the wind starts blowing as everybody just watches. Finally, the lights turn on and both Yusuke and Chu start going at it. At first, I thought Chu's reach was gonna give him an obvious advantage. He's like 2 feet taller than Yusuke, but surprisingly, they're about equal in terms of hand-to-hand combat, even this close up. It's just a brutal fist fight at this point. Neither of them are playing any type of defense. They're not blocking, they're not evading. They're just trying to punch as hard as they can without giving up. While this is going on, Kuwabara can't help but be impressed. Noticing the sheer focus and determination that both fighters have, it seems as if nothing else matters to him right now. It's as if this fight is their entire world. While Kuwabara says he could watch this fight go on forever, Keiko in the stands can't take it any longer. She runs off as Shizuru tries to run after her, knowing that it's not safe for her to be running around, but eventually Shizuru just can't keep up. Back inside the ring, Yusuke and Chu are still going at it. Keiko manages to make her way to Kuwabara, begging him to go in there and stop Yusuke. She wants him to call the fight off since they're just gonna end up killing each other. But Kuwabara knows that stopping them at this rate would be impossible. Kuwabara explains to Keiko the entire history with Toguro and how they fought him at first, but it was a rigged fight. Now they're being forced to participate in this tournament. Chu is strong, but nowhere near as strong as Toguro. Yusuke pretty much has to do this. He has to overcome this fight with Chu, even if it means putting his life at risk. Kuwabara completely understands the mentality that Yusuke's in, but Keiko just can't seem to grasp it. Kuwabara was explaining the stakes and everything that was on the line for this tournament, but inside the ring, as Yusuke is risking his life, he seems to be having the time of his life. He's smiling. It seems as if he's having fun. Chu manages to get a clean right on Yusuke, knocking him back further than he ever had before. Now he sees the opportunity to finish the job. He rushes in for his signature headbutt, and Rinku knows that nobody's ever survived this one. But Yusuke, planting his foot even further into the knife, responds with a headbutt of his own. And after the clash, Chu's eyes roll over as he falls to the ground. The ref counts up to 10, and officially Yusuke has won his team the third and final round needed to advance to the tournament. As Rinku goes to check up on Chu, he can't believe that Yusuke actually managed to win. And as Chu regains consciousness, he calls out to Yusuke that they agreed to fight a death match. It's only right that he finishes the job. But looking at Chu dead in the eye, Yusuke tells him that'd be no fun. They can just have another fight, a rematch, when they're both stronger. Walking back to his team, Yusuke ends up making eye contact with Toguro alongside one of his team members, Karasu, as they just finished watching the fight. Safe to say, Yusuke is more than ready to take on Toguro.